presenting, or for the board members, if you're not about to ask a question, please mute your computer, because we pick up a lot of feedback, especially when there's a lot of people and it's kind of hard for the rest of us to hear the applications. And I think everyone wants all of the zoning board members to hear their application. So please make sure you mute. If you're talking, and no one's answering, we'll figure it out, and we can see for the people that are presenting if you're still muted, and we'll remind you, because you can hear us. Or hear me or Mr. Decker, who will remind you that you're on mute. And then you can just, we'll get you to restart. All right? Katie is joining us almost.
I think I'm here.
Yep.
You're just not on video.
Start video. Yep. Webcam, easy camera. See me yet? No, can't see me. I don't know what to do here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's fine. There should be at the bottom center of your screen
video.
A little bubble that says stop or start video, and an arrow.
It's saying, let's see, settings. We can't connect to your webcam. Okay. It always connected before. Did we change something? Can I just do this without my face?
Yes, we can. That's fine.
I'll keep trying.
Yep. So everyone's on. We'll call to order Zoning Board of Appeals, September 3, 2020. Pursuant to Executive Order 7B, we're conducting this meeting remotely through WebEx. And I'm calling to order our September 3 meeting and hearing. When a matter is called, I will be calling all of the matters and setting forth what you're looking for. At that time, the applicant to begin your presentation. Please wait for me to finish the call before you begin your presentation. All of your items that you've submitted have been distributed to the zoning board. If for some reason you need something new to be shared, if it's through a sharing screen, or email it to Mr. Decker, we can do that. Hopefully everything is in our possession that you want us to consider. I know we received a lot of emails from people that are interested in different applications, and we've had a chance to review those, as well as all the materials that were in the applications and what the applicants also have submitted up to this time. After the applicant's presentation is completed, I will invite anyone who's interested to also speak. There's Katie, very good. Anyone who first wants to speak in favor of it, I will allow you to speak in favor. If there's people that oppose it, I will allow you to speak. Please be patient. There's a lot of people that are on calling in, so we have to open up each time to see if there's anyone that's on the call-in line and give them the opportunity to speak. So that might take a little bit of time. If there's opposition, I will allow the applicant or his or her agent to address those points in opposition. And I want to remind all the applicants and agents at that time, it's a time for you to rebut, to address what was stated in opposition, and just kind of restrict your comments to that. It's not a time to restate your application. This meeting's being taped, so please make sure that you are speaking clearly. All right, take your time. If you're rushing it, it could be garbled. When we're not in one room together, sometimes it's hard. So please take your time, speak loud and clear to make sure we hear everything. Only one person can speak at a time, so please don't interrupt us. I will give enough time for people to chime in and speak if they want to. So please don't interrupt other people speaking. I welcome the comments. The board welcomes the comments of anyone who's interested in all of the applications, whether you're in favor of it or against it. However, I will exercise my right as chairman to restrict your comments at any time if you are too far off the point. So please, again, let's keep it to the point of what is the application and what that applicant is seeking from the Zoning Board of Appeals. After we go through the public hearing, depending on how long it is, we may take a quick break, and then we will reconvene our working executive session. At that time, you can stay on the line. You could stay on the call, you could stay on the video, and you could listen to the discussion because we will be voting on each matter that went forward today. There are 5 voting members for the Zoning Board of Appeals. In order for your application to be granted, you need a supermajority. You need 4 out of 5 members, at least 4 out of 5 members to vote in favor of your application. If it's a simple majority, a 3-2 in favor, that application has been denied. If you cannot wait at that point to listen, you can always contact zoning office tomorrow or later to find out. If an application is granted by this board, it's not going to be valid until it's recorded on the land records. Therefore, you must bring or send a check in the amount of $60 to the town hall, to the zoning department, and make it out to the town of Fairfield, which will allow for proper recording of the notice. Any waiver or variance that involves construction, whether it's a new dwelling, an addition, or an alteration, requires an as-built prior to issuance of a certificate of zoning compliance and a certificate of occupancy. And just a reminder for anyone who may have called in or anyone who may have joined on the video, the following 3 items are not going to be heard today. They're going to be postponed and taken up at our October hearing, and that is 240 South Street, 90 Mill Hill Road, and 171 Carlin Drive. We'll now begin the public hearing, and the first matter we have is number 11 from our continued docket, and that is address 2087 and 2088 Fairfield Beach Road, map 234, parcel 164, petition of CEMSCO LLC for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 11.1.4.1, to allow a detached accessory garage with finished floor above, plumbing fixtures and heat, and section 11.13.2 to reduce the setback from Fairfield Beach Road from 25 feet, proposing 15.3 feet. Permission to construct a FEMA compliant detached 2-story garage premises BD zone. I think this is Attorney Russo, correct?
Chairman, it's Raymond Rizzio. I'm going to handle this if that's.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Ray.
With you.
Sorry.
No problem. They're trying to run me out anyway, so that's it's happy to be here tonight representing SEMSCO LLC with regard to 2087 and 2088 Fairfield Beach Road. This property is we're requesting the ability to build a 2-car detached accessory garage with a finished floor area above it for like a home office, plumbing fixtures and heat. There will not be a kitchen, and it will be a half bath. Our client believes that this would be greatly improve their property. They currently own 2087 Fairfield Beach Road, which has no garage, has parking in front, requires the backing out onto Fairfield Beach Road to enter or park for the site. What we'd like to do is build this accessory garage. What's nice, I know what the commission has been concerned with some of the projects that people, with their garages on the creek side, that they have to back out into Fairfield Beach Road. It's tough to see. Our client is very aware of that as they own another property next door, and they have set it up so that they will be able to enter their garage from the side. They will not have to back out onto Fairfield Beach. They'll be able to pull out, back out of the garage, make a 3-point turn, and proceed, head out. The variance we're requesting is for the front setback. From the front setback, because technically it's supposed to be 25 feet from the center of Fairfield Beach Road. We're 15 feet. Part of that issue arises out of the topography of the what do you call it? The shape of our lot, which has a diagonal lot line. So we're really almost at 25 feet we're over 20 feet at the furthest, but because the Fairfield Beach Road sits on a diagonal, we encroached up to 15 feet. We don't impair anybody's views, and this will give us the ability to park, as I said, come in from the side into this garage. If we were to shift the lot, we would not be able to come in from the side. We would have to have front-loaded garages, which require backing out at the Fairfield Beach Road, which we think is a health and safety factor, as other members of this commission have expressed previously. Our client supported the application last month. We had almost the identical application last month at 2101 and 2102. The property directly to the east of us, I think Attorney Fallon represented the applicant. Attorney Fallon, we submitted a letter in support of their application. Attorney Fallon has also submitted a letter, I think at that time, a letter supporting our application. So, and on top of that, Chris Russo has submitted to Matt our client did an exhaustive canvassing of Fairfield Beach Road and has a 2 or 3 page of his neighbors all supporting this application. We believe it's an excellent design architecturally. We believe it fits in with the property. We believe the hardship is that our variance is out of the shape of lot issues, safety issues, and we believe that with the current design and the architectural done by Richard Swan, that we've come up with a plan that works. We'll add a safety feature, yet give us a garage, a 2-car detached garage that's FEMA compliant, and also the ability for some workspace on a home office above that garage, as the current pandemic has shown, has become a much desirable and a much needed resource. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. We spent a lot of time going through this, making sure that it works, getting the cooperation of our neighbors and the approval of our neighbors, and I think we have is something that will be an asset to this neighborhood. And I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission may have. That would be it. As I said, our hardship is driven by the shape of the lot and driven by safety features with regard to how this garage is going to be loaded from the side versus the front. And we think, like I said, it probably is one of the best, it probably works the best given that area of Fairfield Beach Road, which is very narrow. This we believe provides the best safety feature available. Maybe a question.
Thank you, Attorney Rizzio. And I know that there was at least one letter, a couple letters of some comments, because when this was supposed to be on, and Mr. Decker has given us those as well. I elevated Matt to an attorney for the town now. So do you want to address those? We'll wait and see if there's comments, and then we'll leave that time for rebuttal at that time. I think that would probably be the best thing, if that's all right.
Agreed.
Okay. For now, let's see if the board has any questions for Attorney Rizzio.
This is Don Chowski letter.
Jane, yes.
Hi. We got an email, I think earlier today, where the retaining wall has been removed. Is that correct?
Correct. I think it wasn't really a zoning issue. Jim Wendt had brought it up and thought that there might be an issue with regard to adding this retaining wall because of some FEMA requirements. So Jason Spath that's really not a zoning issue. It would be a building permit issue. However, Jason sent a note out to say that we've removed the retaining wall and you will be able to just by natural grade enter onto the lot.
So if hypothetically the retaining wall was there, the way you enter the driveway is through the next door neighbor's driveway?
They could store a piece of property, but we don't need the retaining wall anymore, so it's not necessarily.
They can, when you say they control the next door piece of property, what does that mean?
Correct. They own the next door piece of property also.
So someday if that piece of property was sold and they put up a fence between the two properties?
We don't have that issue because the retaining wall is gone.
Okay, because Otherwise, you would never be able to get into your,
Well, otherwise, what I would have done is request that as a condition of approval today that we enter into an easement agreement because of the retaining wall. Mr. Spath has redesigned it. Well, he's worked out the grading so that it works, that we won't need the retaining wall. So we'll be able to access the property directly from our own property on Fairfield Beach Road. Does
okay.
that make sense? It makes sense to you
Yeah,
now?
I didn't realize that the property next door was also under your control as you described, because
Yes.
otherwise there's no way to get into the
Oh,
garage.
yeah, that's why, I probably, that was my fault. I probably should have started with that in the beginning, that Mr. Spath has submitted a revised plan that it showed. I wasn't sure which, plan you were looking at. The one I have here doesn't have the retaining wall, so,
Yeah, we got
the
that.
retaining wall is gone
Okay,
and not necessary.
okay. That's my question. Thank you. That's it.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, shaking head no from Katie. Sharon? Terry? No questions. Okay, no questions for me. Now I'll open this up to people in favor of the application. Is there anyone on the call-in list in favor of the application? Okay. No response there. Is there anyone that opposes the application? Anyone on the call-in list that opposes the application?
I did have some.
Is
Kevin,
it
do
some-
you hear Ms. Bunnell?
No.
Becky, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
All right. You're going to have to probably speak up a little louder.
This is Becky Bunnell speaking. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Kevin, can you
Yes.
hear her?
Yes, again.
Okay. I'm speaking mostly in favor. I don't have any major issues. I'm glad to hear that the retaining wall is gone so that that property is not dependent on the neighbor's property in order to access it. But I guess my question comes back to the bulkhead issue, which I think we had briefly discussed in last month's meetings. Do they plan on rebuilding the bulkhead? Because this is one where there is a fairly serious deterioration of the bulkhead. So that's question one. And then question two, I'm assuming all of the other setback requirements are still being met, but if they're not entering from the side anymore, do they still need the setback from Fairfield Beach Road? Is it still a hardship?
Well, the setback from Fairfield Beach Road is where the building is from Fairfield Beach Road, not, so that they still need that setback.
But I thought that was because they were entering from the side. And now you're saying they don't need to enter from the side anymore because there's no retaining wall.
They're still entering from the side of the garage. They're not, they're entering from the side of the garage. They're not entering from the neighbor's property. They're entering from the side of the garage so they don't have to back out onto Fairfield Beach Road. Is that?
Right, but you're saying that they will have to back out if the neighbor's property is sold, they would have to back out on Fairfield Beach Road. That would be the only way to access it.
No, they're coming in. The Attorney Rizzio, unmute yourself. The garage is faced to the east, correct? It has an east opening, correct? I can't hear you.
Okay,
All
hold on.
right. So no, I'm sorry, getting on another one. We're having a problem with one of our computers. There'll no longer be a retaining wall, so you can now enter directly from Fairfield Beach Road, make a 3-point turn, enter the garage. When there was a retaining wall, we would have need to access have an easement recorded from the neighbor so that we could access it. We've designed this from safety purposes. Our client is very uncomfortable with as the commission is, where the Fairfield Beach Road kind of turns there, and wanting to not have to back out onto Fairfield Beach Road to get out of the garage.
And there we go.
Okay, Ms.
And then,
Benel, I mean, I
have
can't
a-
answer your
is there
question
some-
about the bulkhead, and I don't think Attorney Rizzio can answer it, but your point is that you want it to be, you want there to be a condition of a bulkhead from what happened the last,
Exactly. That's my request, is that there be a condition that we repair the bulkhead. And in an ideal scenario, I'd like to start to implement a bulkhead height that represents sea level rise, that reflects the fact that the state of Connecticut is projecting that there will be 20 inches by 2050, and that we should start to plan for that in all of our buildings.
and Ms. Benel, this board doesn't have that authority, in my opinion, to issue such a condition, nor the oversight to oversee that. Are there other comments? Ms. Benel?
No, those were my only requests for consideration.
Yeah, and I think the owners
Repairing the
here would,
bulkhead,
obviously,
and
if they need to build a bulkhead because that one is not stable, they're not going to invest that money and have an unstable bulkhead if an engineer says it needs to be done. But I'll let Attorney Rizzio speak to that. Is there anyone else in opposition? Anyone else on the call-in?
I see nobody. Chairman Coink.
That's it? Okay. And so Attorney Rizzio, do you want to address that? And also, we did receive a letter, and it was from the last time, but it is part of the record, and that is a response from Mr. Machowski about the property as well. And I'm sure you have that.
Yes.
You want to
Well,
address them in any order?
Once again, I think Mr. Fallon probably fought the fight last month with regard to the requirement of the condition of a bulkhead. Our client's intent is to replace the bulkhead, but it'll be as approved by the DEP and not as a neighbor or an uninterested party would set a line. I think our intent is to go for a bulkhead that gets to 7 feet. They're asking for 8.5 feet. In the end, it's going to come down to the jurisdiction of the DEP as to how high the bulkhead has to be and where it goes, which is typically why the zoning boards don't require this as a condition, because it's an engineering and a building permit issue, which our client will clearly address. And that's basically it. It was mostly with regard to the bulkhead. We're going to be compliant with all FEMA regulations. There's no intent to create a dwelling unit there. We have conditioned it on the fact that we will not have kitchen, and that there'll be some plumbing for a half bath there. I think that's consistent with the conditions you put on either side, on the properties on either side of this property. So this will be the property at 2101 and 2102 has the exact same situation, exact same detached garage with a working area or a living area above it, and same thing with 2081 and 2082. So we stand by our plans. We think it's a big improvement. We also puts us in a situation where we now have a garage. We're at the house at 2087 does not now we do not have to back out there, because right now currently all we have is some parking spaces that require us to back out onto Fairfield Beach Road. By putting the garage facing it sideways, we believe we are getting rid of a hazardous condition and asking for an approval that's consistent with the properties on both sides of us. I'd be happy to answer any other questions, but I think it's all pretty straightforward at this point.
Okay. All right. I don't think there are any questions on that rebuttal part. Okay. Thank you. Number 11, the continued docket hearing is concluded. Now we're on to the general docket. Number 1, 59 Robin Lane, map 125, parcel 247, petition of Andrew and Linda Trapp for a variance of the zoning regulations 5.2.4 to reduce the rear setback from 30 feet, currently 35.3 feet, proposing 23.5 feet, permission to construct a rear deck premises A zone. Are the drafts here? Looking around. Matt, do you see them? You're on mute, Matt.
There we go.
I don't see them, at least on my grid here.
No, wait, I'm sorry. Hold on one second. She is the phone number. There she is.
Yes, hello.
All right,
Oh, there we go.
Sorry. Linda.
Yes, hi.
Okay, sorry.
Hey, I think my blood pressure went up 10, 20 points from waiting.
All right, Ms. Drapp, go ahead, present your application. We can hear you. Speak loudly, though.
All right, yes, I just need to know if we can go forth with our larger deck because, you know, as we stand right now, it's a zigzag deck and we're just asking to just add, you know, 2 feet just to bring it out straight from the zigzag, just to make it where I can actually just put a picnic table there and not only be able to sit 2 people, rather so we can sit.
Okay. Have you spoken with the neighbors to that back side?
I have, and they're the ones that signed it.
Okay, all right. All right. Anyone have any questions for Ms. Drapp?
No, I just need to know if we're allowed to do this. If not, then
No,
we're going
that's,
to have.
I'm asking the rest of the board members if they have questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Anyone questions? Katie, Sharon, Jane, Terry? Nope. All right, no questions. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the application?
All participants are unmuted.
Is anyone in favor of the application? Is there anyone in opposition to this application? 59 Robin Lane. All right, hearing no opposition. Ms. Drapp, thank you very much. Your hearing is now closed. We'll be meeting at the end of the public hearing to discuss your application, and at that time we'll decide, okay?
All right. Thank you so much. Bye now.
All right. Number 2, 18 Bloomfield Drive, map 44, parcel 90, petition of Kevin Mueller for variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.4 to reduce the street line setback from 40 feet, currently 8.5 feet, proposing 32.8 feet, and 2 sideline setback from 15 feet, currently 13.8 feet, and 18.4 feet, proposing 9.8 feet and 14.7 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase lot coverage and total floor area from 15% and 30%, currently 24.5% and 37.3%, proposing 28% and 41.4%, permission to construct a 2-story and second floor additions with balcony premises R3 zone. Who is presenting that application?
Chairman Coyne, I do not see Kevin Mueller online.
All right, we will pass that for now. Can you just let me know in between matters if he does appear, and if I see it, I will have him go next at that time. Now move on to number 3, 75 Old South Road, map 241, parcel 56A as an apple. Petition of Haley and Christopher Milligan for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.5 to increase the lot coverage from 15%, currently 16.1%, proposing 16.5%, permission to construct a new covered porch and 2-story addition, premises R3 zone. I think they're on.
Yeah. Hi, I'm here. My name's Tanner White. I'm the architect of record for Haley and Chris Milligan for 75 Old South. What we are proposing to do here is to demolish the existing 2-car garage and in its footprint build a 3-car garage that's the exact same width as the current parking court, which then does push it over the allowable coverage. In addition, we are requesting for to build a screen porch in the rear, which again pushes us about 12 square feet over the additional coverage that we're allowed as well. So the hardship that we're claiming is that we have, I'm sure you guys are looking at the site plan, but it's a sort of a flag lot with about 5,000 square feet allocated towards that gross lot area that once removed obviously hurts our total coverage that we're allowed to build. So the family is a large growing family. They just moved into this house. It has a 2-car garage. They're hopefully seeking the 3rd car so that they don't have to have so many cars parked out front, safety, ice, all of that kind of stuff. They're going to have their mother-in-law staying with them, and that's hopefully going to be her bay. If we were to keep the garage as is and keep the screen porch at the current elevation that we had proposed, we would not need a variance. But due to the 3rd car addition, as well as the additional small increase in footprint to the proposed screen porch, we're seeking a variance for that as well.
All right. Does the board have any questions for Mr. White? Jane, yes, go ahead.
Hi. I'm not sure if I understand what you just said about the total lot area.
So the total lot area is 28,872.
Well, according to the survey, it's 25,893.
So if you look at the bottom of that chart,
Yep.
it says total area equals 28,872.
Okay, and the reason why you've lost 3,000
is because of the bottom left, that access strip to Willow Street it's a non-conforming shape. So
okay.
that's been deducted from their total lot area. So or from their net lot area. So we're penalized like the 3,000 square feet.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Well,
You have something else, Jane?
only that the minimum required for a lot is 20,000, so you're still well over that. You still have.
That's correct.
Need.
That's correct. Our hardship is not necessarily an undersized lot. It's just that the lot size that my client was obviously told about didn't realize that they were not allowed to use the coverage of the total lot. It was only the net lot. So that's the hardship that we're applying for.
So the hardship is that you.
An irregular shaped lot. Yeah, the hardship that we're claiming is that it's an irregular shaped lot and that our net area is lower than the total area of the actual parcel.
But still larger than the minimum requirement.
Correct.
Okay, thank
Correct.
you. All right, thanks.
Any other questions from the board? Katie, do you have questions? You're muted.
Quick question. So just confirming, you're basically asking for an additional 0.4% over what you already have?
Correct.
That.
Yeah, we're going from, we're allowed 15%, obviously. The existing conditions is 16.1. We're asking for 16.5.
Got it.
Any other questions? Sharon, Terry? All right. No other questions. Is there anyone in favor of this application that wants to speak? Is there anyone opposed to the application that wants to speak?
I'm not hearing of anybody,
Okay.
Chairman Coyne.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. White. We'll be taking this up at the end of our hearing.
Thank you very much.
Number 454 Toilsome Hill Road, map 30, parcel 345, petition of Ann C. Chesson and Michael A. Sussel for variance of the zoning regulation section 5.2.4 to reduce the sideline setback from 7 feet, currently 5.6 feet, proposing 3.8 feet, permission to construct a one-story addition premises A zone. And who's presenting that application?
I unmuted Miss Chesson. She should be able to
Hi,
speak.
Kathleen Poirier is presenting.
Oh, there we go.
So my name's
Kathleen's
Kathleen
your
Poirier.
architect.
Yep, the architect presenting for Anne and Michael for the variance. We're doing a few projects of renovation to this house, and the one that we're seeking a variance for is the side entrance / mudroom on the property. This property of theirs is a little bit unique in that the topography is quite steep on the west side of the house, and the east side is the only one that really affords a safe, level entrance from the street into the house. And therefore, that's why we're putting that addition on that side, and ultimately, because the house, again, was originally built so close to that property line, it's forcing the addition a little bit closer to it. I believe this whole property is just, a little bit, the hardship is truly the topography of the property, and we're only seeking to build a one-story addition there. The existing house is 2 stories, and it already is over the side yard setback.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Poirier from the board? Sharon, any questions? Terry? Katie? I already saw Jane shake her head no. Okay. So no questions from the board from you, Ms. Poirier. Anyone wish to speak in favor of this
All
application?
participants are unmuted.
Does anyone want to speak in favor of the application 454 Tossum Hill Road?
I'm not hearing anyone.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to the application for 454 Toilsome Hill Road? Okay. Hearing nothing. Thank you, Ms. Poirier. Thank you, Ms. Chesson. Either one of you can stay on through the end of the call, and we will be discussing that later after we go through the complete hearing. So 454 is now closed. Number 5, 65 Robson Place, map 139, parcel 341, petition of Robert and Marcy Reed for a variance of the zoning regulation, section 5.2.4.3, to reduce the street line and sideline setbacks for an accessory structure from 30 feet and 10 feet, proposing 7.9 feet and 9.3 feet, permission to construct an in-ground pool premises A zone. Who's presenting that application?
I am. I'm Marcy Reed.
Ms. Reed, okay, there you are. Go ahead.
Okay, so we are just looking to put in a small 8x20 pool, and we have a little bit of an unusual situation with our lot. We are at the end of a dead-end street on a corner angle, and we would not need a variance except for we happen to back up to another dead-end street. So this property line backs up to Horace Court, the dead-end street behind us. And because of that, our backyard is considered another front yard, and therefore that triggers a 30-foot setback. And because our lot is undersized and irregularly shaped for our zone, we are unable to put a pool anywhere on our property that would meet that requirement. So we're keeping with the side setback requirement of 10 feet on every side possible, and requesting 7.9 and 9.3 respectively, as you mentioned, on the sides where we're unable to meet the 30-foot setback. worth noting is that our next door neighbor on Horace Court has the exact same pool on a smaller lot than ours. We got verbal approval from her. She was unfortunately out of town when we were going around getting signatures, but she did give us enthusiastic verbal approval, and we got written approval and support from our other two direct neighbors as well. So that's everything.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Reed? Yes, Jane, go ahead.
I drove down your street, but you can't really, I didn't want to get out of the car and wander. Just, the town of Fairfield has property behind you. And then Horace Court, we're on the map, there's no house there. So the only house that's adjacent to your property is the Garcia property on that.
Correct, that's the one that has the exact same pool
Okay.
in her yard, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none.
All participants are unmuted.
Anyone wish to speak in favor of the application at 65 Robson Place? Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition to the application at 65 Robson Place? Okay. Hearing none, thank you, Ms. Reed. We'll be taking that up at the end of the hearing.
Thank you.
The next item is number 6, 171 Carlin Drive. That was continued to October. Number 7, 320 Partridge Lane, map 177, parcel 44, petition of Martin Brunk for a variance of the zoning regulation, section 5.2.4, to reduce the sum of 2 sideline setbacks from 20 feet, currently 14.8 feet, proposing 15.8 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase lot coverage from 20%, currently 20.9%, proposing 26.7%. Permission to construct a one-story garage addition, premises A zone. And who is presenting this application? Is it
That's me.
Chase? Gary Chase?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Yes. Gary Chase. I'm with Christian Ray Studio in Fairfield. We are representing our client, Martin Brunk, who is also on the call. Martin's lived in town in this home for 22 years. He's raised 2 children there and is planning on remaining in the home and has hired us to design a couple additions for him. One of which is the reason we are here. If you are referring to the site plan, that should tell the story of what we're doing. The majority of this variance ask is for the proposed one-story garage that we're adding in front of the house. So we are seeking variance for the combined side yard setbacks. We are not meeting the 20 feet required for one story. You can see to the north side we're at 9.3 feet, and then to the south side, the existing corner of the house is 6.5 feet. So we're about 16 feet combined there. The garage is, however, conforming to the front setback of 30 feet. We're currently at 30.8. There is a second addition on the rear of the home, just to note. It is an expansion of the existing master bedroom over there, but that is over top of an existing room down below. So we're basically just converting an open porch to partial finished space and partial deck. But there are no variances required for that portion of the addition. The proposal conforms to the allowable FAR. And so basically just the side yard setback and the coverage is what we're asking for. Currently, the house as it sits is slightly over coverage at 20.9%. The proposal here comes out to 26.7%. We will also be removing, as part of this work, a shed that is currently encroaching to the south there. So that would also be kind of an improvement here. As for the design, the garage on the front, you can see again, it is 1 story. It's about 18 feet at its highest point. So it is designed to align with the 1-story portion of the house. And similarly in the back with the addition, that master addition, that would basically meet the existing ridge line of the house as well. So no kind of additional bulk requirements there. As for hardship, the lot is, as you can see over there to the west on Mill River, there's a good 30% of this lot area is not counted in our coverage regulations because it's covered for a good amount by water, and a portion, which doesn't actually, isn't actually underneath water up to the channel line. That whole portion to the west is not counted. So we are losing area there that we could otherwise claim as coverage. There's also currently no garage on the house, and that's the main driver for the project here, is that the owner wishes to have a usable garage, which he hasn't had before. And again, given the wetlands in the back of the house, really we focused our efforts for the new disturbance in the front with the garage addition. I believe that's it on that portion. You guys should have also received a petition from the neighbors. We have the 3 direct abutting neighbors support. Either side, to the north and south, as you'll see in the site plan, is open space owned by the town of Fairfield. So that concludes my presentation, and open for questions.
Does anyone on the board have questions for Mr. Chase? Jane, I see your hand up. Okay.
Hi. I'm not sure what your hardship is, because even taking out the portion of the property that's in the river, your existing lot area is still over 1,000 square feet bigger than the minimum lot that you need. So what is your hardship?
So the lot area to the channel line, looking at the survey, is 18,700 square feet.
Right.
And I think I haven't actually done the math on that portion there, but I know it gets a lot closer if we a lot closer to the allowable if we were to claim more of that channel area and that river area.
So the hardship is, can you just? I'm confused, because you have more than enough lot area over what you need for a lot. So what is the hardship?
Well, the hardship would be at that point would be trying to add a function that doesn't currently exist on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Sorry, I was looking down at it. Yes, go ahead.
It's a good question, and this is maybe just, I'm looking at the survey, and maybe I'm reading it wrong. It should setback from property lines 1 story, minimum required 20, existing conditions 14.8. But this is proposed conditions 14.8. Is that just a mistake, or because it says on our sheet you're asking for 15.8?
Yeah, so I think the way it's written on the agenda is correct. Let me see here.
That's just a
proposing 15.8, which is, let's see, is the 9.3 to the north, and then to the south, the 6.5, which is the existing corner.
Okay.
And the 9.3, obviously, while we're not meeting the combined setbacks, we would be meeting technically the minimum for one side of 7 feet.
So it's just a typo on the survey.
I'm sorry?
So it's just a typo on the survey in the grid where it's listing out all the proposed versus existing.
Yeah, it could be. Let me see in the grid here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Terry, Sharon,
All participants are unmuted.
is there anyone that wants to speak in favor of the application 320 Partridge Lane?
Kevin, I'm sorry. Can I ask one more question?
Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
That's okay. One more question. When you look at the house, the driveway ends at the face of the house. Did that room that's right in front of that used to be a garage?
No.
That's at the lowest level?
To be honest, I'm not sure. The owner is unmuted, so he could probably answer better.
Yeah, Martin Brunk, hi, nice to meet you. I asked the neighbors who lived here much longer than I did whether that was ever the garage, and they said that was not the garage, ever. What was the garage, interestingly, in the 60s, was in the back of the house, where now we have the basement entrance. And the original owner seemed to have been given over the open space around the house into a basement garage.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, thank you. I'm
Yeah,
just
so
curious.
there was, the time I owned the house, there was never a garage.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Brunk. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Is there anyone that wants to speak in favor of the application 320 Partridge Lane? Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition to the application 320 Partridge Lane? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chase. Thank you, Mr. Brunk. We'll be taking this up at the end of the hearing.
Thank you.
Number 8, 275 North Cedar Road, map 176, parcel 29. Petition of Paul and Corinne Cicercia for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the minimum required line setback from 25 feet, currently 29.8 feet, proposing 15.3 feet. Permission to construct a new one-story, two-car garage premises, AA zone. Attorney Fallon, you're presenting this?
I am, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
You can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, I'm here to represent Paul and Corinne Cicercia. They are actually on the line here with us today. The property is located at 275 Cedar Road, and as the call indicates, the variance we seek is to reduce the side property line setback to 15.3 feet in order to construct a new two-car garage as shown on the plans that we have submitted. By way of background, Paul and Corinne have certainly a growing young family. They have 3 small children, and Mrs. Cicercia is expecting a 4th child. So in order to accommodate the very significant needs of the for additional space to accommodate their growing family, they have determined that they are going to build a 2nd floor addition to the property. That's shown on the plan submitted herewith, but obviously that 2nd floor addition is entirely over the existing structure and footprint, and it's compliant in all respects with all provisions of the zoning regulations. The only thing that brings us here today, and which I'll talk about now, is the need for a new garage and the need to place it where we are proposing. If you were out for your field inspection, you probably noticed that the existing garage is quite truncated in its length. It doesn't accommodate the type of vehicles which the Cicercias require, certainly in order to meet the needs of their growing family. The existing garage is also situated in a manner that's really quite difficult to turn into, as it sits sort of on a sideways orientation of the property. So what it comes down to for this young family is they're really not able to use this garage in a convenient and functional manner. In addition, the current house has very limited storage, and with soon to be four children, storage is obviously essential to them. The upper area of the proposed garage will be used solely for storage, and that's going to allow them to address that need as well. The overall plan that you have in front of you, including the garage, of course, was designed by Margaret Browning of Browning Residential Design. Meg is on this meeting as well. She is here. We're very proud of it. The searchers are very excited about it. We think the overall impact is going to have a very positive benefit on the surrounding property in the neighborhood. By way of the property itself and the underlying hardship issues, the property is located in the Residence AA zone, and it's burdened by some fairly challenging topography, as the survey indicates. And I'd ask you also to note the location of the existing driveway. All of these things, the topography and the existing location of the driveway, which I'll elaborate on in a moment, really require us to place this new garage on the northerly, that being the left side of the house. And so that's what drives that. This comes under the statute 8-6A3. You have to make two determinations. One, that what we are proposing does not substantially affect the comprehensive zoning plan. And that two, there are elements of the facts here that establish legal hardship as our case law defines it. With regard to the first aspect of the test, I cite in my material the Egan case, which stands for the proposition from our appellate court that if the use to be made after a variance is granted is a permitted use under the zoning regulations, that satisfies the first part of the test. That's certainly the case here. We're going to continue to utilize the property as a single family home. As I indicated before, all the contemplated renovations, except for the new garage, are in total conformance with the regulations, and the garage is too, except for the side yard setback that we seek the variance of. We're, as I said, excited about this. We think the garage is aesthetically pleasing as designed by Margaret, well with the existing house, and will have a positive impact on the neighborhood. We submitted petitions to you in two forms. I think you'll find a total of 9 signatures. So the neighborhood is very much in favor to this. And not most especially, but certainly those neighbors include our northerly neighbor, where on the property line where we seek variance and where the garage is to be located. As to the hardship requirement, you know well, the board members do, that the standard there is that we have to demonstrate some characteristics with regard to the property and the situation that supports a finding of a variance. There are 2 real levels of hardship here. One, as I cite in my material, our Connecticut courts have always held that topographical conditions which constrain or relate to how things can be placed on the property do create a proper basis for a finding of hardship. And we certainly have that here. The existing topography directly does implicate the manner in which the garage is to be set. The other thing is there's case law, obviously, that the board is familiar with that says that existing structures and their existing placement can form the basis for a granting variance for purposes of hardship. And clearly here, the driveway itself being located where it is dictates where the garage needs to go. So by way of summary, the garage is going to allow this growing family to have some functional and safety with their garage in addition to storage space. We think the garage is attractively designed, as is the overall addition. And we feel, and we think our neighbors agree, it's going to have a nice benefit in the neighborhood. And from your standpoint, hardship, I think, is established. We do meet the standards of Connecticut General Statutes 8-6A3, in that, as I said, we have existing topographical conditions and the location of the existing driveway, both of which require that this new garage remain situated on the northerly left side of the property. And we've talked to all of our neighbors, and most especially our neighbor to that northerly side. And as you can tell by the petitions that have been submitted to you, everyone is happy and pleased with the improvements that the Cicercias are making. So we'd be pleased to answer any questions if you have any, and we would hope you'll favorably consider this application.
Thank you, Attorney Fallon. Is there any questions for Attorney Fallon on the board? Shaking of head of no. Okay. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application 275
All
North
participants are unmuted.
Anyone in favor of 275 North Cedar Road? Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition to the application for 275 North Cedar Road. Okay. Thank you, Attorney Fallon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
275 North Cedar Road hearing is now closed. Matt, did we hear from or Mr. Mueller?
I have not seen or heard from him. I sent him an email with, again, the instructions to sign on.
All participants are unmuted.
Okay. What we'll do is we'll just wait, obviously, till the end. We have two more matters, which may take some time. So we'll wait until the end. And if not, just please remind me about that, because we will have to officially make sure it's continued to next month. Okay.
Yes, okay.
The next item is number 9, 115 Davis Road, map 47, parcel 16. Petition of 115 Davis Road LLC for a variance of the zoning regulations section 5.2.4 to reduce the street line and rear setbacks from 40 feet and 30 feet. Currently 29.9 feet and to the house, and 25 feet to the open front porch, and 17.6 feet. Proposing 29.9 feet to the house and 25 feet to the open front porch, and 17.6 feet. Permission to construct a new second floor with attic with new front porch, premises R3 zone. Mr. Papageorge?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Lucas.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you guys for being here and taking the time to review our application. I'm Lucas Papageorge. I'm representing the owners. I am a general contractor in the town of Fairfield. Our office is at 301 Berkeley Road, Fairfield, Connecticut. Been in town doing work similar to this for many years. I'd like to start. The owners are asking to convert an existing standard cape with an existing front porch to a colonial, going up straight up over existing foundation, existing first floor, and the existing walls on the second floor are just getting raised. There's a second floor now, cape style, and we're just raising that to 8-foot ceilings, and we're going to have an attic above that. The colonial, we're not changing the footprint. This house will be well within all zoning regulations except for the setbacks. So the reason for this is the existing house does not meet current zoning regs. It's not in the standard setbacks. The subdivision for this area was created in April of 1941, many years before the March of 1948, when the town adopted its first subdivision regulations. And because of this, the majority of the lots in this subdivision do not meet current R3 zoning regulations and are existing non-conforming lots. That is why in this area there has been 26 variances on Davis Road alone. Any of the houses in this area that would like to make any changes to the roof line or build any addition, deck, or any other alterations would need a variance. The owner's hardship is that the shape of the lot and the topography of the lot are well-established acceptable hardships. The shape of the lot would only allow for a 4-foot wide house to be built, 4 foot in depth. The front to back setback only allow you to have 4 foot of actual house on the property. With that, although we have overwhelming neighborhood support on Davis Road, we do have two objections from lots behind us. Mrs. Sheets, who is over 50 feet away from our structure on the corner of our lot. If any of you guys have driven past our lot, it's long and narrow. So she's all the way at the southern end of our lot with less than 10 foot of actual touching. And her main objection is that the owners plan to sell the house when the construction's done. She said in her letter even that she wouldn't have an exception if it was a family that would live there, which I do not believe is a reason for objection. And then Mr. Nelson, who is behind our lot, his primary complaint is that the property looks down from his on Davis Road. that you could look into his backyard from the yard on Davis Road, and that has been and that he has a 3-month baby and does not want to be disturbed by the construction noise. The topography of the lot has not changed. We're not planning on changing that. It looks down on the yard currently, and it will look down on the yard after we're done. And the fact that he has a baby, I appreciate that fact, but, you know, construction work goes on all around town, and we can't help that. All the subdivisions and the variances since the inception of the subdivision are textbook examples of why the town and the state allow for a variance process as we're going through now. And we're hoping with that we conclude with a favorable decision. If anybody has any questions, I'm open. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Papageorge. Anyone have any questions from the board? Jane?
All right, one question. Hi. I only have elevations. I don't have floor plans. So can you just confirm what, if anything, is happening in the attic that you're
Right now, we've submitted the elevations only, but the attic's going to be pull-down steps storage. It's possible to finish, I guess, but I don't think we're going to have a ridge height high enough for really to finish it in future.
And you're not putting any windows at the gable ends?
Not at this time, no.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's
that
it.
looks on that looks up and down the road.
Right. No, I know.
Mr. Nelson's concerned on the back of the house.
I understand. There's no dormers or anything. It's just.
Yep, it's straight roof line.
And it looks like, if I measured right, effectively the roof line is going to go directly straight up 7.5 feet. That's it. Does that sound right?
Plus or minus 7.5.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board for Mr. Papageorge? Terry? No. Katie says no. Sharon? No questions? Okay. Does anyone on the call in or on the line want to speak in favor of this application, 115 Davis Road? Okay. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition to 115 Davis Road?
I believe there's someone that's going to speak, and the owner wants to speak.
That wants to speak what? Mr. Papageorge?
In favor of the Jonathan Bukowski. He's on the line.
Okay. Just one moment and I'll let that person speak. I just wanted to note, you did mention Ms. Sheets, and you also mentioned another person, Nelson, but just for the record, just so you know, we also had an Emily Roque and a Ross Heller, also people that were on Louvain, okay, that were on the Louvain Road side. So the person that wanted to speak in favor, are you on the line?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Jonathan Makovsky. I am one of the members, along with my wife, for 115 Davis Road LLC. I am a local realtor, and we have Lucas and I have been working. I've worked with Lucas on many deals in Stamford, where we have taken homes that have been neglected and have contributed to keeping within the characters of the neighborhood. We've actually, on one of our recent homes that we've completed, had many neighbors come up to us and tell us how in line with the character of the neighborhood we preserved it. We're really just looking to make this a little bit more for this home before we had purchased it had fell out of contract 3 different times as a result of different things. One was a developer that was looking to knock it down. We're not looking to do any of that. We're looking just to take the existing structural footprint and go up on the roof from there. And we're really looking to just improve the neighborhood and keep it in line with what the street and neighborhood is.
Thank you, Mr. McCoskey.
Thank
Is there
you.
anyone else in favor of the application 115 Davis Road? Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to 115 Davis Road? Okay, not hearing anything else. Mr. Papa George, you have addressed it. Oh, wait a second. Someone's waving at me?
Yeah, hold on one second. I'm sorry. There is one person, Chairman. Can you speak up and present your name, please?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
I can hear
Yes.
you. I need you to speak your name.
Great. My name is Nick Nelson. I'm the homeowner residing at 108 Louvain Street.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Nelson. We have your letter, I believe, as
Great,
well.
Oh, great. Thank you. Cool. So, again, I appreciate the zoning board providing me the opportunity to speak. As I said before, I'm the homeowner residing at 108 Louvain Street in Fairfield. My backyard shares a significant border along my northern property line with 115 Davis Road. I would like to state my objection on the record to the variance being requested by 115 Davis Road Limited Liability Corporation to increase the setbacks over zoning regulations and add a second story with attic onto the existing house. My wife and I purchased our home almost 3 years ago, where I work from home 5 days a week, and my wife is a teacher in the local school system. This past Memorial Day, we also welcomed our first child, Scarlett Elizabeth, into the world. She just turned 3 months. I actually grew up in Fairfield, moving away after my mom passed away about 15 years ago. I always dreamed of being able to come back and raise a family here, and after finally saving up enough, we were able to put down a down payment on our home back in 2017. 115 Davis Road sits approximately 8 to 10 feet above my property, where the elevation affords nearly unabated views from the rear window of the existing one-story house into my backyard. I have never been comfortable with the proximity of the house to mine, but given everything else that I love about being here and my neighborhood, it was a concession I was willing to make when we bought our home. However, with the setbacks being pushed back further and an additional story being added, it severely infringes upon my privacy and the enjoyment of my backyard and my ability to feel comfortable with it. I provided an email earlier this week to the board with pictures attached, which should illustrate the proximity of these views. On the afternoon of Tuesday, August 27th, I was visited by someone looking for my signature regarding an upcoming construction project. He wasn't very specific, but seemed to be looking for my consent. Being put on the spot and not knowing the details, I, of course, did not sign the paperwork. Upon further investigation, I learned this was likely an approval for the variance being requested at 115 Davis Road. I also learned the new owner of the property is a real estate developer. This is not a new family moving in or an owner that has outgrown the space and faces the need to expand or move out. The developer's pursuit of the variance approval is driven purely by a desire to add additional square footage and to turn a larger profit. The LLC, who is the current owner, is not going to be a long-term stakeholder in the property or the neighborhood. I purchased my home 3 years ago, and I plan to be here for the next 20, raising my children with my wife. I'm in it for the long haul. So why should we have to sacrifice the enjoyment of our property to a developer whose only goal is to make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time and then get out of town? There's no hardship requiring the variance, and the 115 Davis Road Limited Liability Corporation should build in accordance with the current zoning regulations.
All right, that's it. Mr. Nelson? Is that it, Mr. Nelson? I just want to make sure because I didn't want, if you cut off, I want to.
I'm still speaking. I have about another 20 seconds, if that's okay.
Oh, well, you had stopped. I didn't know if you were cut off or if you. Go ahead.
I've been speaking this entire time. Are you not hearing me?
I did not hear anything after you said it does. They can build within current zoning compliant, the zoning regulations. After that, I did not hear.
Okay. Are you hearing me right now?
Yep.
Okay, so just to finish up, that is where I was. There's no hardship requiring the variance, and 115 Davis Road Limited Liability Corporation should build in accordance with current zoning regulations. And then at almost 190 feet, both myself and my Louvain Street neighbors, the Rocks, residing at 120 Louvain Street, the Hellers, residing at 96 Louvain Street, and the Sheets, residing at 80 Louvain Street, occupy a total boundary of approximately 190 feet, over double the size of any other abutting property. Unfortunately, due to the timing of this meeting, not all members could be in attendance, but it's my understanding that each family has raised their objections to the variance via email to the zoning board. Based on my discussions with my neighbors leading up to this meeting, I'm quite certain that their sentiments echo that of my own. Once again, we stand in strong objection of the variance being requested at 115 Davis Road by the Limited Liability Corporation, 115 Davis Road. And again, thank you for providing me the forum and the opportunity to raise my concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. And I don't know if you heard, but I did indicate for the record that we did receive those emails from each of those people as well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak in opposition to the application 115 Davis Road? Anyone else?
I don't hear anyone else, Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Pappageorge,
May I respond?
yes, just you've already responded a little bit, so you don't need to repeat, but if you want to comment on that, please do so.
I will do. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity again. Mr. Nelson has spoken. We're asking for a reduction in the rear setback, which is untrue. We're going straight up over the existing. The setback on the rear will not change. Where there is an existing second story on the house that is a cape, we're just asking to raise the rear wall and the front walls. We're very little change to the actual structure. All the houses on Louvain Street are also existing non-conformant. Most of them are capes. If they would like to do a second story, they would also need variances. The fight against developer working in the neighborhood, a house which has been a hazard, falling retaining walls, underground oil tank, laden with asbestos, some of which has already been taken care of. I feel it's in good cause to approve this variance. Also, I did spend time with the Rashi, the Hellers, and the Sheets, who all actually signed in favor. Now they're allowed to change their mind, but I did spend 30 to 20 minutes with each person and gave them a copy of the plans for them to review. It wasn't quick meetings. They were well aware of what they were signing and what the plan was for the house. They changed their mind. Mr. Nelson was the only one that originally asked for more time to think about it, but nobody else was truly in opposition at that point when I got most of the signatures. As far as being in town and being a family, the Jonathan Makotsky and his investment group have been doing numerous homes in town. They don't just come and make a quick buck. And my company's been here for 20 years. We only work in Fairfield, and part of allowing that and to bring up most of the houses in our neighborhood, we have a track record of not making McMansions. We remodel existing houses and keep them in form with the neighborhood. So with that, I'll leave it to your vote.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Pappageorge. All right. The hearing for 115 Davis Road is now closed. Next item, our last item. Oh, maybe not our last item. The next item is number 10, 185 Thorpe Street, map 180, parcel 148, petition of Cinto Thorpe LLC for a variance of zoning regulations, section 10.11, to increase the height of a building from 40 feet, proposing 50 feet, and section 10.12, to increase the lot coverage and total floor area from 20% and 50%, proposing 25% and 66%, permission to construct an independent living facility, premises DRT zone. Rizio?
Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Raymond Rizio. I'm happy to be before you tonight representing Cinto Thorpe LLC with regard to this project at 185 Thorpe Street. It's really with the good graces of this commission that we've managed to get this far. And although these variances appear to be large when written, in reality are very small. And when I explain them to them and take you through them, they're really a result of responding to taking architectural plans and turning them into construction drawings. So I'm going to start first with the height. The height we're seeking to increase, it says The call is 40 to 50 feet. However, we have 45, our approval, the current approval that we have gives us a height of 45 feet. When we did our current approval, and if I can have Chris Russo bring up the plan with the elevations, I'll take you through the height. Pat Rose is here also to explain some things to you. So when you take these architectural plans, you do your floor plans, you come up with a height. One of the issues that we have working against us from day one has been our average grade, 0.6. Yet, because what we need to do to make the property, we're supposed to use existing average grade, we basically lose 3 feet to start. So we're at 5.6, but really we can't start our ground floor until 8.5 for all the infrastructure we have to do under the ground. Where the average grade is.
We can't hear you, Attorney Rizzio.
You hear me?
We didn't hear you. We missed like last 10 seconds.
Okay. I wonder if you can. Maybe.
See, I don't know why.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can hear me. Okay. So maybe what we have to do is if Matt has that also, if you can see that north out, those elevations that we have posted, can everybody see those?
Well, we have the plans. You can refer to the plans.
I'll show you take you through the approved plans. I think Emmeline's going to put them up now.
Right there,
So what you see now is what is approved. This commission is approved, and the P&Z has approved. As you can see, if you look over to the left, you'll see it starts off with where our average grade is, and you'll see a 5.6, as that's the current average grade. Because the site is so difficult, the site has had needed remediation, site needed all sorts of issues, we can't start our ground floor until 8.5. So we lose 3 feet automatically. Then what you see how we tear our floors, basically getting us up to the 45 feet from the 5.6 feet of average grade. And the 45 feet is really not 45 feet. It's really from what will be the floor, it's really more like 42 feet. The balance, if you look to the far right of the picture, you'll see some arrows. And the balance above that, above the roof deck, is parapet and some architectural work. And our total height is 54.6 feet. That is what is approved. We have the ability to build that tomorrow. What had happened is, as we did our construction plans, we got our full approvals. Because of the large size of the building and the spans, we typically, when you do 9-foot high ceilings, which is what we've represented, which we showed on our elevations, you only need a foot for all of your steel work, for all of your utilities and everything else. Because the spans of this are so large and the steel needed, we actually need 2 feet between our floors, giving rise to basically the additional requirement that we're asking to go up to 50 feet. One of the things I thought about, and believe me, where this property, everybody knows where this property sits, is it's the distinction between 45 and 50 feet with regard to elevations. I don't think anybody from a level I will be able to discern. One of the things that we can agree to do by manipulating some of our floors and the parapet and to make this correct is if this commission would grant our ability to take our roof deck up to 50 feet, is where the height is measured for rather than the 45, we would agree to a condition that no part of the building would exceed the current 54 feet 6 inches, which is what is currently approved. From the actual height of the building to anyone looking at the building, the height will be no different than what is approved. What we need to do is to keep our 9-foot high ceilings, to keep the proper spans, to make it flood compliant. We need this 2 foot between floors, and we can redistribute that between the floors as approved, garage, the floors as approved, all under the condition that we keep the total building height below 54 feet 6 inches. So there'll be no change to the height of the building from the floor to the top of the roof. It's just a question of I want to say manipulating, adjusting the floors and the height of the parapet so that we can continue to be FEMA compliant with 9-foot high ceilings on the 3 floors. And then the balance we can work out with adjusting our parapet. So unfortunately, and where is our hardship here? Our hardship here is one, the size is that we start all the way, we already start in the ground 3 feet because of the remediation and the work necessary to make this property buildable. We need to have 3 feet of infrastructure added above the average grade. So when you look, we're really only looking for another two from our plan. So that is kind of the height. I don't know if maybe I can break this. I'd like to, if possible, Chairman, if you don't mind breaking this into 2 components so that the height is, I think, very distinctly different from the other 2 variances, which are also be minimal as you'll see when I explain it. But if any of the commissioners had any issues with regard to the height.
Let me open it up to see if there's questions on height now. That's a good idea. Jane?
So if I understand, you're going to adjust the slope of the roof so that it's shallower to keep everything at the 54-foot 6-inch height overall?
Correct. Now keep in mind, the only people that really be able to see what's going on the roof is somebody that's flying to Westchester Airport. And because no one visibly with the height that's currently approved be able to even see our roof for the most part.
Well, did you just show the 54? Yeah. I'm sorry. Did you just show the 54.6 at the ridge of the front-facing gable?
56 is the ridge of the front-facing gable, correct?
Right. So you're saying that
we will agree that we will not exceed that height.
So in order to achieve that, you're going to make the roof pitch there shallower, since the rest of the building is getting higher. So then my other question is, previously, well, you're saying you're offering ceiling, you're raising the ceiling heights. So what was approved prior to this? What ceiling heights were approved?
To maintain the ceiling heights, what happened is we were always approved for our plan show 9-foot high ceilings within the units.
Right, and
However,
leaving
the architect who drew.
Yeah.
When we moved to construction plans, Mr. Pat Rose, who's online, I can get him to further explain it. We realized that in doing the construction plans, because of the size of the spans, the amount of steel that'll be used, we can't accomplish that within a 1 foot. Typically, if you want to achieve a 9-foot ceiling, you need 10 feet to the next before you get to the next floor, because you need 1 foot in between for your insulate and all that.
Yeah, so you're saying you need a 2-foot floor box instead of a 1-foot floor box.
Yes.
Okay, so that's adding 1, 2, 3 feet overall? Correct.
And then we need also, and Pat will explain that, in our first floor, I'm going to call it the transfer switch, which deals with the utilities, to be outside of the flood zone.
Right.
And typically an architect wouldn't take that into account when you're doing floor plans and elevations, which you take through zoning. But as you're going through code compliance and everything else, that has to be above the flood elevation.
Understood.
So we needed to get the first floor where the garage is, we need to get that transfer switch higher.
Okay.
If you have really technical questions, Mr. Rose I know he's here, and he'll certainly unmute and jump in. Did all I say in layman's terms accurate?
All you said it was correct. Yes, it was. What you said was correct.
So the eave.
Mr. Rose, stay unmuted for now, okay?
I just want the eave.
Yeah, I'm on. Yep. Okay.
The continuous eave of the 3 portions of the building is going to go up 3 feet.
What's actually going to happen with the parapet? It's actually a mansard roof. This roof is a mansard type roof.
Right.
So what happens is that the depth of that mansard roof is going to be adjusted and reduced, in order to accommodate the floor-to-floor changes that we're going to make.
So-
to maintain the overall height, we're going to adjust the pitch of the gable
Right.
slightly. It's at 8.5 to 12. To 12, we're going to bring it down to 6 and 12. So
Right.
it's not a huge change, and then adjust the height of the parapet to accommodate.
Right, but the eave line is going to go up relative to the ground
The eave line of the roof is going to go up, correct?
by 3 feet.
Approximately 3 feet. It's going to be different a little different on each building, because the center building, we're going to adjust the first to second floor to give us, we've got big spans there. That's where the dining room is, theaters, a bunch of different common spaces there. We need to adjust that a little bit more. So we're just looking for some latitude going to the 50-foot height to the roof deck, but not changing the overall heights associated with the height point of the roof.
Right, but when you're standing in the parking lot and you're looking at the face of the building, the eave line is now going to be 3 feet higher.
The eave line will,
So the apparent look of the building will be 3 foot taller if you're standing.
no,
parking
the
lot.
top of the roof. is
You
not-
can't see that. You can't. If you're a person standing, you only see the eave line. You can't see beyond it. You're just seeing the eave line. That's going to be going up 3 feet.
It's not, depending on the elevation. For example, the front elevation that face you, you can see right to the top. You'll be able to see right to the top of the ridge. Correct,
No.
Pat?
Now, these are two-dimensional drawings. I'm talking about three-dimensionally when you're standing as on the ground looking up at the building. Where you perceive the eave line, now you're saying is going to go up 3 feet higher.
The eave line will be higher, yes.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify that. Thanks.
All right, does anyone on the board have any other questions relative to the height presentation portion? I can't see anyone because the map's in front of me, but please unmute and let me know. Katie, questions? Sharon? Terry? Okay. Attorney Rizzio, can you go on to the other portion of it?
Other two portions are really driven by our use. As you know, we agreed to an age restriction. This is going to, in conjunction with the Jewish Home for the Elderly. We anticipate most of our residents probably being between 70 and 80 years old and even older. So with regard to, let's start with lot coverage and total floor area. With regard to lot coverage, we're looking to go, the call was for 20%. However, our approval by this commission was 23.3%. We're looking to increase that to 25%, and that comes out of two functions. We have 6 foot wide hallways throughout the building. As we're going through our construction plans, looking at our clientele, we realized that we probably need handrails for interior ways, which is a little unusual. And was not considered in the architectural plans. So these handrails basically are 6 inches on either side. So the hallways will expand from 6 feet to 7 feet. And the rooms and everything else the same size, but the building gets a foot wider because of these 6-inch handrails that run through the entire length of the building on each side of the walls. We end up increasing our rear lot coverage by 1.7%. And the other thing we added as a result, we did this a year ago almost, and the world has changed so much. Everything was on the inside, our dining room, everything. We had some stuff on the floor. We've added, which you can see in the site plan, to the rear of the building against on the first floor where our amenity areas, we've added an outdoor deck. So that would possibly allow for maybe some outdoor dining at some points, or for an outdoor area. Because we're 13 feet in the air, and because we are serving primarily very senior residents, it was important for us to have, more so now with what's gone on with the pandemic, some out space for our residents. Now, this is off the rear of the building. This is off the first floor of the building. And we believe it will have literally no impact on any neighbor, as it sits between two wings of a building. Pat, what's the approximate square footage of the deck, if you can recall?
The deck's about 19 by 40.
Okay. So it's not a very large deck, but it is for the people out and get some in without having to go onto the ground 13 feet down. And in the we eventually end up with some sort of restrictions going forward. Who knows what the world's going to bring, but the ability to have some outdoor space adjacent to your living area has become a very important factor in the world in 2020. So, and if anything goes for our total floor area, the call says 50%, and now proposing 66%. Current approval is for 64%. So this deck and this increasing of a foot of the hallways throughout the building on multiple floors, the floor area ratio to go up 2%. And that's, correct me if I'm wrong or if I've misstated anything, but that's what's happened, and where we've ended up needing to grow our lot coverage by 1.7% from what was previously approved, and our floor area ratio by 2%. All invisible to the naked eye, all very much making sense, and all specifically to accommodate our clientele. The commission can grant these conditions on the condition that we actually add the handrails, so you don't have to worry that this is just our way to get more square footage or bigger apartments. We're not adding one apartment. We're not adding any amenity area except for having some outside space off the first floor, and we're not increasing the size of any units. This is merely to accommodate the clientele that this approval was granted for. So I'd be happy, Pat and I would be happy to discuss those two specific issues. And keep in mind, the call makes it look like we're asking to increase to 25% when it's really a 5% increase. We're really only asking for a 1.7% increase over what we already have. So with regard to the floor area ratio, we're growing from 64 to 66. Only by those two things. And we can agree to that as a condition of approval, that the deck be installed and that handrails be installed, so that you don't worry about the fact that maybe we're just figuring out a way to grab some extra square footage. These are purely elements unique to the clientele that we're serving and unique to the reason that this commission has granted this application in the past. Fortunately, some of this stuff does not come up when going through general plans to put before the zoning board, but things move as you actually turn these elevations and floor plans into actual construction plans. I don't see the negative effect to any neighboring properties. I don't see that this affects value. I think it's consistent with your master plan, and it's certainly consistent with the world as we know it today. I'd be happy to answer any questions this commission would have. And same Pat Rose. Pat, if there's anything I missed that you'd like to add, please let me know.
No, you explained it fine.
All right. Any questions? Jane, you had your hand up?
Yes, I do. I don't know if you saw Duncan Keith just poked his head in. He's might be saying goodbye. Anyway, I understand that you want to put handrails in, and you know, as far as universal design, I applaud you for doing that. But why didn't you just take 6 inches out of each apartment on either side of the hallway instead of making the whole building a foot wider?
Basically, in the layout
Leave
of
that
the
to my
building,
architect.
the apartments that were designed, and they've been redesigned to be better, they are tight, and taking 6 inches will impact those apartments. And we thought that it would be better to grow the building as opposed to make the apartments less efficient, less roomy, less usable.
Okay, and then I have another question. On the size of the deck, the architectural drawings have no scale to them, so I'm relying just on the survey, which is at 40th scale. And if I understand this, the deck is actually more like 70 feet by 20 feet. Am I wrong?
You could be right. I was just coming off the top of my head because I don't have a scaled plan in front of me either. So.
Okay, so it's big. It's over 1,400 square feet.
Yeah,
but that's the only.
It's 19 foot deep. That I know. I didn't quite know how
Right.
wide.
Okay, 20, and then about it goes between the 2 bump outs. So.
Correct.
That's okay. But is that the only place that residents can go outside? They don't have balconies. They don't have a green space.
There are no balconies associated with these units. No.
Is there a green space that they want to sit on the lawn, so they don't have to sit on a south-facing deck?
Yeah.
There's
green
trails.
space.
We just can't get green space to the green space is 13 feet. You know, it's 13 feet down. So what we're trying to do was trying to get, because of the floodway and because we need to be FEMA compliant, we were trying to get some outdoor space on the same level as the living area.
So there's a walkway abutting green space around the whole back of the building, so residents can go down there and have a picnic or sit on a lawn chair. All that's going to be maintained.
Pathways all the way around.
And that's going to be maintained by the building as green space
Yes.
for the residents?
Yes.
Is there going to be additional planting?
There are plantings all around the building. It's not shown on this drawing, the site plan.
Have they been submitted as part of? They were previously.
Commissioner, the amount of impervious surface and added more landscaping to this site than has ever been there before. So
Right.
that's not changing. What we do want to do, and I know I've got my mother is 86 years old, living in a community space like this. She, walks with a walker, and she like to get outside, but doesn't necessarily want to go 13 feet down or can stroll, or if somebody's in a wheelchair, at least can be, go outside from the dining room and get some fresh air.
But if they
so
live,
because
if they live at
this
the far,
client-
if they live at the far end of the easternmost building,
Mhm.
to go outside, to sit outside, they have to traverse half the length of the building and then go down to be outside.
That's where it's off the dining room.
Right. But I'm saying that's the only place they can easily, with a wheelchair, go outside.
That's the only place on the living level that will be available. Everything else is going to be on the ground level. Hardship here is to become FEMA compliant, our building has to be 13 feet in the air. So we don't have the ability, except by way of a deck, to bring outdoor space to the living level.
Unless you put balconies or bigger windows with, railings in each apartment.
We start building even more. That's the problem.
No,
And then
just make
also,
the window- I'm saying this building could be so much more than it is. It could be better. And I know you're not in a position to say one way or the other, but I have to voice my opinion.
no, I understand. I think if you can recall, with your input in our last application, we made some significant changes to break up the appearance of this building. So we do take your opinion seriously.
I have the photo here, and I'm not still in favor of this amount of building, but I do appreciate that at least it's broken into 3 segments. So what I'm suggesting, if there is another go around, that it would be a little bit more, since you want to give outdoor space for residents, give them more outdoor space.
Here's, and I represent the Jewish Home for the Elderly.
Yeah.
And one of the things, people go there with an element of control. So they, if they're older, having problem forgetting, you don't want them leaving their balcony doors open. They don't necessarily want to be on a balcony. So there's a level of control and security there, different from like a regular apartment building where you'd say, you know what, go put the balconies out there. You don't have to worry about, if you don't have the balconies, you don't have to worry about somebody tripping going out onto the balcony. You don't have to worry. It's a little bit different. And that's, if you can recall, to prove that this is what we were doing, there is remember, with this whole project, there's an age restriction that goes with this project. And frankly, most of the tenants will be much above the restriction. And with that comes a sense of security, for a sense of caring. And if you have 148 units and 148 balconies, your staff, your worries, everything else versus old, elevated living area, I think that's the thinking behind what we're doing. I mean, it's not a question of Mr.
Did I misunderstand that?
Well, hold it. We're going a little bit beyond the application and the variances being requested.
That's fine.
We didn't need to talk about the Jewish Home for the Elderly. We don't need to talk about balconies. We need to talk about this particular application.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Katie? Sharon? Do you have a question? Need to unmute.
It wasn't so much a question. I just wanted, just for the record, say, I grew up in DC. We have a lot of independent facilities like this. The Hebrew Home of Greater Washington is a very large compound, and they have figured out a way to do green space, and they have the exact same concerns that you've expressed. So sorry about my voice today. And I don't know if this is part of the session or not, but I just want to concur with Jane that I do feel that this property could have, even if it was enclosed, some areas where people feel like they sort of have a sense of outside, not necessarily balconies. I understand we wouldn't have balconies, but that there was sense of green space, because that does exist in multitude of locations throughout Washington, D.C. And I've never heard of any issue.
To be clear, if you look at the site plan, there's there's 2 pickleball courts. There's walkways all the way through. There is, the question was trying to bring the constraints that we have, an outdoor space to the living level of the building. That's all this is about. This property has more green space than it's ever had. It's got walking trails. It's got pickleball courts. There's a gazebo out there. So there's plenty of space for people to get green space. What we try to do is introduce an element to the living area, which is a deck, versus because we can't do it on the ground because of our problems with the flood elevation. We have to be 30 ground, over the ground. It would be we'd love to do patios. We can't do them because we have to be patios off our units would be fantastic. We can't do them because of taking this, in effect, derelict, unbuildable property and turning it into what I think is a magnificent structure with a tremendous beneficial use for the residents of Fairfield. And we're trying to do the best we can to give them every amenity possible. And one of the amenities we thought would work would putting this deck on the living area, which the only way to bring the outdoors to the living area is to do it by way of a deck. If you look at the site plan and look at the pickleball courts, look at the walking trails, you'll see that there is this is a complete transformation of a derelict industrial site. So I don't want you to think that we're just a deck over asphalt or over a parking lot. If you look at the site plan, you'll see there's a green space. All of Mr. Cinto's projects, I don't know anybody that landscapes and shows the care and details to the exterior of his structures which is what here will do. This is merely an opportunity to bring outdoor amenity space to the floor of the living area. And our constraint there is the floodway that we have to be.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Terry, do you have a question? Jane or Sharon, any further questions? Katie? Okay, Attorney Rizzio, I have a question, just so I'm clarified. You're obviously asking us to grant this application, and I just want to confirm that if we consider that, it would also be subject to the same conditions from our March 7th, 2019 hearing, okay, as well as what you proposed, the additional conditions that you would maintain the ridge height at 54.6 feet if we granted the variance for the height requested in the formulaic height. And you'd also allow the condition that the handrails and the deck will be installed and constructed by the applicant and their builder.
Correct.
Those you're proposing all of those conditions. Is that accurate?
Yes, important that the commission knows that there's no motive here other than to provide these amenities, to provide these necessities to we're not looking to grow the building to accommodate these necessities and the construction required to deliver the product that we previously had approved. So those
and I appreciate that.
100%.
Just want to make it clear.
Correct.
Yep. Because we might have some people that are commenting, and I know you're trying to do those conditions to alleviate some of the stuff that we've already heard from the neighbors, and which you've already heard, and you heard back in March and before that from the neighbors. And I know you're aware of that. All right, so there's no further questions. Now open it up to people that want to speak in favor of the application, 185 Thorpe Street.
All participants are unmuted.
Hello, I have a question.
The opportunity is to speak in favor of the application at the moment.
Not in favor.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application, 185 Thorpe Street? I know Mr. Cinto would speak in favor, but you don't have to speak, Mr. Cinto. I understand you'd be in favor of your own project. All right, not hearing anyone. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition to 185 Thorpe Street?
Yes.
Yes, there is one. What's your name?
Yes.
You're going to have to speak louder.
My name?
Yes.
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to whoever's speaking.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Claire Kennedy Blasius, and I live downtown, and I've got just a couple of comments and a couple of questions about this project.
Okay, you're going to have to wait. I want to get a handle on how many people want to speak in opposition. Is anyone else?
I'm speaking in opposition.
What's your name?
Yes. Opposition.
I didn't catch that name.
I'm speaking in opposition.
I need your name. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you're on a call in and it's very difficult, but I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak. So I first want to find out how many people want to speak so I can do this in some semblance. Since we're not in a meeting room, I can't call you up to the podium. So I need to know who it is that wants to speak in opposition, and you need to give me your name. And I know the connection is bad and you're going to almost have to pretend like you're yelling, but please do so because we want to make sure we hear everything you say. So I had a Claire Kennedy. I didn't get the last name. Is there someone else?
I would like to speak in opposition.
We got to go one at a time. So give me your name.
My name is Margaret Mitchell. I'd like to speak in opposition.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Is there someone else besides Claire Kennedy and Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, my name is Cassandra Walker, and I'd like to speak in opposition.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Walker. Is anyone else? I have 3 people so far. Is there anyone else? Okay, I think it was Claire Kennedy. I'm sorry I didn't catch the last part of it, but could you give me the full name and please let us know your concerns?
Okay, so yes, the name is Claire Kennedy. My first concern is, as designers of properties like this, the fact that you missed handrails, which would cause this whole thing to take up more square footage when you were building for an aged community, is somewhat unacceptable. Now, maybe there have been gyrations of this project that I don't know about. In addition, if you're building for the elderly, the fact that this is raised, 13 from the ground, and you were using that as a reason why you had to raise certain structures and make certain, allotments for the roof height, et cetera. Well, it's because you're building in a flood zone, and that these are elderly people, and they have to get up and down. Trust me, I live down at the beach. 16 steps up is a pain in the neck. Obviously, there are going to be elevators and things like that, so you've obviously handled that bit of it. But it really begs the entire point of the project, building on wetlands that require FEMA compliance at 13 feet. So I'm a little bit surprised that a company that is so respected would make these sort of mistakes. And secondly, outdoor space, on the wetlands area is beautiful, and there should be better access to that for these residents. Perhaps the size of the project should be sliced in half to accommodate more outdoor space. So I'm against the raising of the roof level because I think it's way too high as a resident of someone who lives downtown very close to the post road. And secondly, it's sort of all these things are afterthoughts. These things should have been, put forward with the initial plans for the elderly. I mean, it should have been done from the get-go, not coming back for a variance. What is this going to do to the neighborhoods around Thorpe Street, Ruane Street, Rugby Park, things like that? I mean, this is a very big building, and if you're adding height and you're expanding the footprint, it's really might not be great for the residents. I'm finished.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Okay. Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, I'd like to speak about a number of issues. First of all, the square footage and the request to then increase that. I fully support the idea of putting in handrails and the outdoor space. I think all that can be handled. Just have fewer units. Take it off the overall square footage. I think it'd be better. The system you have, it's fairly easy. Just do fewer units, and then it will take care of all the issue of percentages and so on. The other issue, well, several other issues, but the zoning board representation, I live very near that property, and I really feel as if we're having very poor representation in this town by the zoning board. We've been through many iterations for this property, and, the ones that were agreed upon before were for fewer units, and now it's up to, 148 or something, which is far more than it ever was to begin with. And that, in addition to so many of the other things around town have been approved, I really think the zoning board is not representing our interests and is really doing things in a way that's not good for the town. The other issue is people are talking about their elderly residents. There'll be fewer cars coming in and out. Yes, there'll be fewer cars for the residents, but people in that position have caretakers coming in. There's all kinds of services that get provided. I don't know that the overall cars and the number of trips in and out of that property is going to be any less than it would be if the residents were 40 years old. So, I think we have to really consider that. And, finally, the issue about raising the overall height, again, I don't really see that's necessary. If the architects really feel it's necessary, then make another concession, have fewer units, and just, make the property smaller in other ways.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
Are they
Ms.
willing
Walker?
to make any? Is like that, have fewer units or do any concessions at all.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Walker?
Hello? Hey, this is
Yes.
Sandra Walker. Oh,
Go ahead, Ms. Walker.
Hello?
Is this Ms. Walker?
No.
Okay.
Hello?
Ma'am, whoever's saying hello, you're going to have to wait until Ms.
Okay.
Walker's done speaking. Ms. Walker, go ahead.
Okay. This is Harry
Hi,
Wiswell on what?
No, Mrs. Walker is speaking right now.
Yes, my name is Cassandra Walker, and I live on Welch Terrace. My back house, back marsh, I will actually be looking directly, my backyard actually will be facing this huge mega structure. And I was not aware that this was going to be 148 units, 50 feet tall. I was completely blindsided. A few years back, I had be somewhat of a 48 building, and therefore I was thinking, oh, that should be okay, right? But then all of a sudden I see these drawings and 130 car spaces, 148 unit building. Just imagine, like, I've lived on this for 18 years. I have 2 young kids, one in private, one in public. I'm married, and the beauty of the marsh is just going to be like the sun sets over on the west and the sunset every night. And now I'm going to be looking at a huge looming building, and I'm shocked that this was approved. And the location is the traffic is already horrendous at Thorpe Street, Mill Plain Road. So I am totally in opposition of increasing the height and making this any bigger. I would make it smaller. I would just make it less of a mega structure and make it more conforming to a town that should remain not a city, but a town. So I am opposed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walker. Is there anyone else that wants to speak in opposition to 185 Thorpe Street? Emmeline, was there someone else that was trying to get on?
I think there was a Miss Wiswell.
Hello?
There you go.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Hi, you have to give us your name. I can hear you.
Harriet Wiswell on Willow Street.
All right, ma'am. Tell us what your thought, your concerns are.
Opposed. Hello?
Okay. Yes, tell us why.
I want to oppose the building on 75 Old South Road.
Oh. Ma'am, that we're talking about Thorpe.
Oh, you're still on Thorpe?
Yes, that matter was taken up in order a little past 3 o'clock when we started.
Yeah, okay. At the end, can I oppose 75 Old South Road?
Ma'am, we have to take them in order. I open a hearing and I close the hearing. Because I can't open up a hearing and then the applicant doesn't have an opportunity to address.
Okay, is there any other way I can oppose it?
Ma'am, I can't give you advice as to what to do, but we needed you to be on the call at 3 o'clock to give us your opinions or thoughts at that time.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Is there anyone else that has comments in opposition to 185 Thorpe Street? Okay, and I just wanted to point out for the record, we did receive comments from people, Batchelor, Rosen, Formicelli, McKeon, Ryan, and Petch. Just for the record, the board did receive all of those emails that addressed some concerns with the application. Attorney Rizzio, would you please address the comments? And I mean, you've kind of touched on some of the issues in those letters, but if you would just kind of wrap it up to address those comments in opposition and where you did not hit the comments in the letters.
Okay, well, the opposition, I think, is to a project that's already approved. We're increasing the number of units. We're not increasing, I believe, the appearance of the height of the building as relates. I think the only person that's closest that appeared today was on Welch Terrace, which is marching 765 feet away. And I don't think that she will be able to tell any difference in the height of our building, provided we continue to stick to the condition that we supported, which is that the peak of the building never exceed 54.6 feet. That's what she's going to be looking at if we don't get this matter approved. How we have the right ability to improve the building and make what a project that has already been approved even. The fact that the building is going to grow a foot in width to accommodate handrails is that I don't believe this was I don't believe it was an oversight. I believe it's an amenity that you add. And when you go through these plans, you're always adding and subtracting. In this instance, the addition of this, we don't have big units. We have 148 units. The units are not, they're mostly one bed. They're smaller units. They're compacts for older people so that they can accommodate and get around the unit very easily. These are not, large units. So every square foot is important. The amenities are very important. And I think the hardship clearly is driven by our floodway. I don't think Mrs. Kennedy, Claire Kennedy, nor Margaret Mitchell to look at the site plan to understand what was happening on the site with regard to green space being added to a derelict, environmentally contaminated site to be turned into probably the greenest space of any of these assisted living facilities in the area, that has the ability to look out on a marsh, that we're adding a public, there's going to be access for a public walkway ever existed. There's going to be lawn added to the site, removing asphalt that had sat there for years, that sat in the marsh area off-site. So, and then we're upgrading the sewer system. So this is an incredible project for the town. The problem is when you demolish a building before you get a building approved, people tend to forget what was there. And in this instance, I believe that the variances we're requesting are very minor and really infantile and not visible in its nature. By requiring putting the height requirement in, the requirement of the handrails, and then just adding a deck, and the deck being occasioned as a result of the only area to add outdoor living area to our space. I know there was a mention of balconies. If we put balconies off every unit, we would be adding more square footage and more coverage than we do by having this what do you call it, this common area deck. So it's because of the physical condition of the property, because of the construction standards required to meet to get this project that's already approved. It's necessitating these, with your cooperation, with the conditions that we are proposing, meaning a maximum height of 54.6, which matches exactly what's approved, with adding that the only building will be to allow for the handrails, to allow for a 7-foot hallway, and to allow for an outdoor deck. I don't think we're doing anything to enlarge the building or enhance the building than currently exists, but merely to accommodate these special conditions that exist around the property. For all those reasons, I would respectfully request that this commission give its continued support to this project so that we can move forward and make this and get rid of this derelict site and put a very nicely designed contributing use and facility in this area. The traffic is not going to change. The amount of cars are not going to change. Everything gets to be the same, except we get to take care of a few loose ends that needed to be accommodated as the result of construction drawings and as a result of accommodating amenity space for the neighbors. Part of the outdoor space has never been enlightened off of livable areas. It has become a heightened demand given, what's happened with the COVID issues. And we think this is one of our ways to be able to address and make this amenity available, that they have some outdoor space on their living floor in an area which is required to be FEMA compliant 13 feet off the ground. I am sure I repeated myself way too many times. And for all those, Kevin, just very bad habit. I bet you've never been so happy to have a mute button. But I appreciate this commission's continued support and respectfully request to grant this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Rizzio. That concludes 185 Thorpe Street. Just to go back to, we had passed on number 2, 18 Bloomfield Drive. Mr. Muller. Matt, have you heard from him?
No, and Josephine called and left him a message as well. So we're going to reach out to him again and continue him off to October.
That matter will be continued unless he changes and withdraws or does something else. Emily, yes?
Can I just double check that he's not on the call?
Fine.
All participants are unmuted.
Hello, do we have an applicant for 18 Bloomfield Drive on the call-in? I don't hear anybody. Okay, thank you.
Nope.
All right, thank you, Emily. So we'll continue number 2, 18 Bloomfield Drive, unless we hear different from that applicant. All right, that concludes, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the hearing for September 3, 2020. We'll reconvene. Does any of the board members, do you need a quick break to grab something, or can we go into, we good? You're gonna get some water, Katie?
Big glass of water. 1 minute.
Yep, we'll wait.
Terry's doing the same.
Thank you.
No problem. Just need Terry back.
Be slow.
My estimate as to the length was probably right on.
What's that?
Well, I had estimated till about 6:30, but since we are missing three matters, I figured my estimate was right on.
Well, technically we were missing 4, but yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, well, there were a couple that there was going to be a little bit of discussion about, so.
Yeah, I anticipated 6:30 also.
Did Terry come back? No, not yet.
No. Okay.
All right.
Terry's back.
Terry's back. Katie's gone. There's Okay, we have everyone, Sharon, Jane, Terry, and Katie. Great. Okay, we'll begin the executive working session now. The first item was on our continued docket number 1, 240 South Street. That was continued. Continued docket number 2 was 90 Mill Hill Road. That was also continued. Continued docket number 11, and that was 2087, 2088 Fairfield Beach Road. Attorney Rizzio presented that application and entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Terry, thank you. Is there a second?
Seconds.
Jane, okay, thank you. All right, discussion.
Since today we got the drawing that shows the wall removed, the project makes a lot more sense.
Yes, I agree. Good, bringing those questions in because it confused one of the opponents as well, having that wall. Yeah, and unfortunately, we're not charged with the responsibility on bulkheads and seawalls. And it is consistent with the one that's next door. Any other discussion?
I just want to ask, there's non-commissioners with their mics open, if they could close their mics. There's a few people who have their mics open.
Well, the only ones that do are the commissioners.
And Mr. Cinto has his mic open.
Marcia Reed has her mic.
Yeah, it's been open the whole time. There's no mic associated with that sign-in.
Okay.
I'm hearing feedback, so.
I think it's when we all have our mics open at once.
I just saw 3.
Yeah, it's the commissioners.
All right. Let's bring it to a vote. Jane?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
And I'm yes. This is general docket number 1, 59 Robin Lane. Ms. Drapp presented this. It's to construct that rear deck, change the smaller deck and square it off a little bit bigger. Entertain a motion to approve.
Jane says so moved.
Thank you, Jane. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sharon. Discussion?
It's a reasonable ask, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Jane, I'll bring it to a vote.
Jane says yes.
Okay. Katie?
Katie says yes.
Terry?
Terry says yes.
Aaron?
Aaron, yes.
Yes, for me. Number 2, Field Drive, that was continued. Number 3, 75 Old South Road, petition of the Milligans. Mr. White, the architect, presented that. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Discussion. Remember, this is kind of like a flagpole lot. Go ahead,
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't understand what the hardship is, because even without that extra little bit, the remaining lot size is still bigger than what we need. So what is the hardship? Just that you
Hardship
want.
is they have a lot, but they can't use it to qualify for their square footage for that coverage. If they could use that flagpole, the 3,000 square feet,
right,
then they can apply that to the lot size, and then the percentage obviously goes up of available space to build on. So it's generally the topography. We've had that in the past a couple times where people have had situations where a portion of their lot is deemed not counted for purposes of zoning, but it's certainly counted for purposes of tax purposes. It's certainly counted for, it's part of their property.
Right.
So that's it. It's a very technical piece, but you know, they have an area of land they can't use to count towards the total square footage.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, bring it to the vote. Jane?
Jane says yes.
Katie?
Katie says yes.
Terry?
Terry says yes.
And Sharon?
Yes.
I say yes. Number 4, 454 Toilsome Hill Road. A petition of Chess and Sussel, and Ms. Boyer presented the application for them to construct a one-story addition. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Jane seconds.
Who second? Jane? Jane?
Yes.
Okay, discussion. Remember, this is that one that, and if you guys know Toilsome Hill, I know it. I drive up and down it, and I looked at this property. It's just if you're on the hill, you don't have much space other than one side of the property to use, and this is one of those. So I mean, it's pretty reasonable that that's where they'd be putting any additions.
That neighbor to that side did not object. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, bring it to a vote. Jane?
Jane says yes.
Katie?
Katie says yes.
Terry?
Terry says yes.
Sharon?
Sharon says yes.
I say yes. Okay. Number 5, 65 Robson Place, Miss Reed, and she presented the application as to construct an in-ground pool, needed setback issues. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
Sharon.
Who seconded?
Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon.
Sharon.
Discussion.
It's a very unusual lot.
It's worse than a corner lot.
Yeah, they're small there. Very small.
She really has a hardship.
Yes.
All right, bring it to a vote. Jane?
Jane says yes.
Katie?
Katie says yes.
Terry?
Terry says yes.
Sharon?
Sharon says yes.
Excellent. Approved. Number 6, 171 Carlin Drive was continued. And then number 7, 320 Partridge Lane. Petition of Mr. Brunk, architect, presented the application. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Katie.
Thank you, Katie. Is there a second?
9 seconds.
Thank you. All right. Discussion.
It's one of those properties where of it is underwater, so that changes the.
Yeah, and well, the good question about whether it was a garage or not. I mean, but apparently they came in before even Mr. Brunk owned it. They came in through the Fairfield property and drove in the back. So we don't want to encourage that. So this is a little better.
Right, especially since they're going to remove the shed and things that are over the property line.
All right, bring it to a vote. Jane?
Jane says yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
All right, I say yes. Okay, there it is, number 7 up there. Number 8, 275 North Cedar Road. Petition of the Secretaries. Attorney Fallon presented this. It's to construct a one-story, two-car garage. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Sharon. Is there a second?
10 seconds.
Thank you, Jane. Discussion?
The neighbors are all in favor.
Yeah, the neighbors right there, the Neugebauers, they're the ones that are closest, and
Fine.
they were the first ones to sign off on the petition. Bring it to a vote, Jane?
Jane says yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Sharon? Kate? Terry? Sorry.
Yes.
I'm going in the same order, sorry. Sharon?
Yes.
I say yes. I always try to, at each hearing, I try to keep the same order. That passes. Number 9 is 115 Davis Road. It's 115 Davis Road LLC. Mr. Papageorge, who is the contractor working on that, he presented the application. Entertain a motion to approve.
Jane moves to approve.
Thank you, Jane. Second?
Second, Katie.
Thank you, Katie. All right, discussion?
Addressing one of the neighbors' concerns that it's being done by a developer, that means a family's going to buy it after it's all done. So the neighbor is going to end up being a family that could be exactly like all the neighbors all around them. And I don't think the fact that it's a developer doing it really makes a difference.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the neighbor's point. You know, they don't think the person doing this cares about the neighborhood, but your point is well taken. Someone who buys it is caring and liking that neighborhood. And I'm familiar with that. It's a weird lot. It goes, you know, right to left. You go down Davis Road, and it kind of goes front to back. It's much higher than Levain, but that's the topography there.
And the other thing, they're just lifting it up the whole 7.5 feet. They're not putting out dormers in the back. There's no additional living space that they're gonna be over. I mean, you've seen what some of the other overbuilds are. This one is really straightforward. It does not increase coverage at all. It just goes straight up and with no additional, additions beyond that.
Yeah, what happens is people that get this, and I understand, they don't necessarily understand that, you're looking for a rear setback variance. They're like, oh, they're coming closer. But the way we do our things, and this discussion is for the people on the call-in, if you're listening, that the town is very careful because they want to make sure that even if people are going up, that they still need to comply with setback for the second floor and above. So their variance, even if you're going straight up, the town of Fairfield still requires a variance, and the town of Fairfield, the zoning department is trying to look out for people, trying to go up and cantilevering and actually being closer to their neighbors. So it's not getting closer to anyone. It's the same footprint, and it's not a big house on that lot. I mean, it's a wide lot. It's not.
It's a very modest proposal for considering what other things you've seen around town.
Yeah, and no lot coverage, no FAR. So, all right, bring it to a vote. Jane?
Jane says yes.
All right, Katie,
Yes.
Terry,
Terry says yes.
Sharon,
Sharon says yes.
I say yes. And number 10, 185 Thorpe Street, petition of Cinto Thorpe LLC. Attorney Rizzio presented the application. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Conditioned on the same conditions that were agreed to and presented and approved by this board at its March 7, 2019 hearing. Also, the conditions that the overall ridge height will not exceed 54.6 feet as it presently is designed to be built, and that the applicant will make sure that handrails are installed in the hallways and a deck as proposed is constructed. With those conditions, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
Katie seconds.
Thank you, Katie. All right, discussion.
Shall I begin?
Someone's got to start.
Just for those who are listening in, this is the third time that this has come before the Zoning Board of Appeals, correct?
Yes.
First, and I sat on both of the first two presentations. I did not approve it the first time. I did not approve it the second time when it passed. And here it is the third time around. And while I understand what they're asking for, I don't believe that other than asking to put a deck around the back, that I think they can accomplish the other two problems that they want to address without increasing the size of the building. They can take 6 inches out of each apartment running down the hall, so they don't have to make the building any bigger. And they can lower the ceiling heights from 9 feet to 8 feet on every floor, so the building doesn't have to get taller at all. And as far as putting out a deck, I think it's like too little too late. I think there should have been more decks proposed all along. And yes, maybe there could have been fewer units and more potential for outdoor space. So I'm not in favor of this new variance application.
Okay. Other discussion? All right. Well, I mean, go ahead, Kate.
Oh, no, this comment. I mean, it sounds to me like obviously the improvements they're making are going to be beneficiary to the residents at the facility. Also, if what Ray was talking about is accurate, we're looking at numbers as they've already gotten approval for the building. It sounds to me, based on what Ray was saying, their FAR is only going up by 2%, which is a pretty small number, and the lot coverage by 1.7. It seems like a relatively small increase to accomplish those goals. That perspective.
And Katie, to that point, those variations relate to the handrail and deck only. And we did approve on March 7, 2019, 23.3% in lot coverage and 64% in floor area ratio.
Right.
With the conditions that were presented, and that was an age condition, and there were other conditions that had to do with access as well. And those conditions were in part based on some of the neighbors' comments at the first application.
Mm-hmm.
The height, we're at 45. They're allowed 45, and that's, as we come to learn, there's a formulaic height, but the ridge, what a lot of people see and what they view is 54.6. So
Can I make a point about that? If you're standing in front of the building, you're standing on the ground and you're looking up, you don't see the ridge, you see the eave line. Line is going up. That's the apparent increase in height. So it's going up at least 3 feet and looks like 5 more feet. So the building is getting 5 more feet up apparently from where you're standing. It's not.
I understand that, but if you stand back and you enter it, you're going to see the same thing. If you stand next to the building, I look up, I see the ridge line. I don't see,
Oh, you don't see
I
the.
don't see, I see the eve line. I don't see the ridge line. But if I'm standing, if I'm standing in front of my house, in my street, which I'm not too far away, I'm seeing the ridge line. And if you're standing
But they were also seeing
25
the eve
feet
height.
if you're standing 25 feet from this building, you're going to see the ridge line.
Right, but you're also going to see the eve line being 3 to 5 feet higher.
You are.
So that wall that forms the face of the building is getting that much taller.
3 feet over 40 feet.
Or actually 5 feet if the building is going from 45 to 50. So they want to raise it. It's going to go 5 more feet.
Well, the discussion with the architect is that it's going to appear to go up 3 more feet.
Well, that's just because they're adding, I asked the extra floor depth 3 times, but there's another 2 feet because they're asking for it to go up another 5 feet.
But I just disagree on the perspective. I agree if you're standing close to the building, you're going to see a difference in that. But I think if you're back looking at it, you're not going to notice a real difference. But that's just one opinion of 5. And I agree with Katie that these things are good things to bend to allow for this variance. I mean, it is approved. If it gets denied, they don't necessarily have to put railings, handrails in. They won't have to, and they won't put a deck in. And that's their prerogative. But they're not coming to this, and that's why they presented the conditions. They're not coming to this to try to sneak something in. It's coming to this to try to make it a better facility. So for that reason, I can support coming back a third time and increasing a little bit. Any other discussions? Katie, Sharon, Terry?
I just had a question, but I wasn't quite clear on the deck. How many people could actually be on this deck?
Well, Jane, you saw the measurements. What is it, like 1,400 square feet?
It's 1,440 square feet. And there's 148 apartments. So are there 2 people living in every apartment or 1?
It just, to me, my only impression, which as I was trying to say off of Jane, is that I think there needs to be, I would go for a bigger variance. There needs to be more deck space. Right, something needs to happen, because if you have 100-something units, and on a Sunday or a Saturday when you have got company, hopefully, for the people visiting, you have no space for these people to go. And
I did the arithmetic.
Jane, can I just finish? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I really haven't talked the whole meeting. So it just seems very compressed. And I wish there was more deck space, or however you want to call it, green space. I'm sure there's trails. Most people, if they get over, let's just say over 75, 80, there are many people who start to have mobility issues. So they're not really using trails or pickle, pickle courts or whatever, but they are using decks to meet and greet family and want to get outside and get fresh air. So that's my only concern, that there's not enough deck space. So I don't know how that can be addressed, but I'd like to see more deck space.
Yeah, well, I mean, they wanted to put a deck in to at least give some thing. What was your calculation, Jane?
If you have a deck that's 1,440 square feet, and if you have 148 dwelling units, and if 2 people live in each apartment, and they're all out on the deck at the same time, because why wouldn't they want to be? That leaves less than 5 square feet per resident on that deck.
The deck seems too small. To me, the deck seems too small, or there needs to be a secondary deck. Although, I'd also be concerned if everybody was out there, you'd have an issue with support at some point, but with extra weight with walkers and scooters and things. So that's my only concern.
If the deck is allowed, I'm sure it will be built. The building inspectors will make sure it's built properly.
I understand. There's nobody out there.
They may have to put a limit on how many people can go out there, like they would in an assembly space.
Sure. You're going to have an issue because scooters are very heavy. My father had 2 of them. They were extremely heavy. That's like putting another 6 people out there in one scooter.
Yeah, and I understand, Sharon, but I mean, your proposal of more deck is either taking away part of the building or an increased variance.
well, one or the other, that's what whichever way the builder would like to go. I think the project is a great project, so I want to go on record saying that. I just think it needs to be enhanced with more deck space
And I think this request is trying to enhance it. That's what
but it's not big enough is what I'm saying.
yeah, okay. Terry, you have any comments? Unmute.
No, I mean, as you said, this was approved back in March, so they're just trying to make it better. They're not sneaking anything in here, plain and simple.
No, they're not trying to sneak anything else.
It's better for the resident, and this is something that Fairfield needs, but I know that's not our charge, so.
All right, are we ready to vote? Okay, Jane?
Jane says no.
Katie?
Katie says yes.
Terry?
Terry says yes.
Sharon?
I have a question. Can I say yes to 2 parts and no to 1 part, or no?
No.
I'll say yes.
Okay, I say yes, the motion, this matter is approved. Okay, that concludes our hearing. Everyone stay safe. Thank you all for being so patient. Thank you, call-in members, if you're still there, for being patient with this. I know it's difficult on your end as well. And see you next month.
Bye.
Thank you. Good day.
Bye,
Good night,
guys.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.